Let's do a deep breath on 3. So 1, 2, 3, breathe in.
Oh.
And breathe out. Okay. You guys ready?
Yep.
Yo, I painted my nails for this. I'm ready.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
We ate enough. Hold on to your friends.
Hey everybody, welcome. We are so excited to have you here. If we haven't met you yet, we're so excited to meet you. And if we are reuniting, hello, long time no see. So everyone, welcome to Living That Good Friendshit. We're so excited to see you. If you haven't already dropped in where you're zooming from or said hi, please throw that out into the chat. I'd also personally love to hear what's the last thing that made you smile or laugh today. Always looking for good new like puppy videos, anything like that. So feel free to toss those in, share the goodness with other people. So just some quick stuff for everybody so you kind of get a feel of what's going on today in terms of the flow of the evening. We'll do some like quick introduction stuff. We'll dive into stories. So myself, Jamie, and Amela will dive right in. We'll do a mini Q&A. You guys are very much encouraged to interact the entire time we're doing stuff in the chat. If something's resonating with you, if you want to share your own story, please feel free. We'll be paying attention. Later, we'll do a really quick sort of check-in with ourselves as a mini writing exercise before we do breakout rooms, and you guys really get to meet and interact with each other. Hopefully make some new friends, maybe see some old ones, deepen those connections, all of that good stuff. And at the very end, we'll come back into the main room out of breakout rooms, and we'll do some key insights. So if there was stuff that really resonated with you, something you learned or stuck out today, someone you want to shout out that you thought was super cool tonight, we'd love to hear all about it. So that's what you can look forward to tonight. Some really quick like housekeeping rules. I know we're all pretty familiar with Zoom etiquette, but we don't want to, assume that everybody has been living on it like some of us have. So just as an FYI, we are recording the panel portion of this event. We know there were some people who weren't able to make it and definitely wanted to like join in on the fun. So this playback will be available later for people. All the stuff you're doing later in breakout rooms, meeting new people, none of that stuff will be part of this. So don't worry about that. Other than that, please, try to keep your microphone off so we're not talking over each other. We'd love to see your faces, so we encourage you to keep your camera on. We'd love to see you. And yeah, if you want to, please feel free to update your Zoom name with your pronouns. So if you're hitting up the participants icon at the bottom or the chat, you'll also see 3 buttons pop up. One of them says more with a drop down. You can update and rename yourself from any of those kind of things. So anything else for rules? Let's see. Yeah, we'll have time set aside for Q&A, like I mentioned earlier, if you are just joining. So feel free, put it in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye out for all of those. And yeah, so the whole kind of background about why this event kind of is taking place and what That Good Friendshit is. So you can expect Jamie, Amela, and I to speak to some of our own experiences on how and where we sort of tackled finding new friends in a new city, friendship breakups, building up communities and support systems, or even how friendship is really just important to us. Clearly, we label it an entire thing after it, and kind of see how things have been evolving and what we're looking forward to in 2021. So we really think that having these conversations and sharing stories and examining what's been done is really just a start. And so this sort of panel storytelling campfire thing and kind of the small group discussion to follow as you guys go into breakout rooms and get to know each other more is really just a jumping off point and won't really be like the end all be all with a solution that will fit every individual, because I think what we can all agree on is friendships are very nuanced and we're all very individual people. So I gave you a lot of intro. Welcome everybody. If you haven't thrown in where you're zooming in from, we'd love to hear it. And I'm going to take a break for just a hot sec and popcorn this over to Jamie. Jamie, I'd love to hear from you about, who you are, what friendship means to you, why are you excited about this?
Hey everyone, I'm Jamie. I am calling in from Astoria, New York. I am originally from LA. I see some, hi Katie, hi Noni, my LA homies from home. This actually was just like, has always been a thing in my brain. Friendship has been an important thing to me because I've been single the last like 6 years, and I feel like I've been dating my friends. I've perfected being the third wheel to almost all my friends and their partners. I think just for me, having the conversations to actually go deep with people has been like my favorite thing. And then when I met Amela, I met Amela 2 years ago on a phone call. Someone introduced me to her saying, hey, she might know something about coaching, because I was thinking maybe I'll be a coach. And she like walked me through momentum. And I was like, hey, cool. We just connect like on the phone, and then I felt the same energy. So we became like Instagram friends, when you just like DM each other like cool shit back and forth, and you comment on each other's stories. And then this past December or September, I went on Instagram hiatus, and she's like, hey, like I have this thing, like I have this friend who you should meet. And I was like, okay, well, I'm literally deactivating the Instagram. Hit me up on this text. She connected me to Amanda, who they knew each other. And I was having like a very shitty day, like the shittiest day that I've ever had in the pandemic. And I had a FaceTime with Amanda, and it like literally made me smile. It was like the happiest moment in that time period that got me thinking and sparked my curiosity again, because I, for myself, had just quit. I was going through like a quote unquote, I don't know, breakup transition thingy. And I think just talking to her just really made me smile. And I was like, oh man, there's something with community and healing and connection and people and friendship. And so we started just texting each other in the group chat, and then we would just talk about friendship and friendshit. And this is we're like, let's just do something about it. Like Amanda just texted like, can we just do something? And we're like, let's just talk about it. And invite our friends and like create a friends of friends of friends community. And that's how like it kind of just birthed all this. So thank you, Amela, for being the glue. I called her my friend matchmaker, and she's like all about matchmaking friends together, because I think if things happen in the group chat, like like you have so many people in it, but like maybe there aren't one-to-one friendships being formed in it. I love the power of just one-on-one. So handing it off to Amela.
Catching it. Thank you. I'm Amela, your friendship matchmaker. I'll be here all night and after to match you. Thank you guys. I just want to say I'm so excited. I was just telling the girls before we jumped on that, like, when you get social media for the first time and you see the friend card pop up, like people want to be friends with you and you're like so giddy. I was just like, oh my God, we have 3 friends in the waiting room. Oh, there's 4, there's 5. So it was really exciting. So I just want to say thank you guys for being here, and also like prioritizing friendship. I think it's such like a pivotal thing for me in my life. Just to backtrack a little bit, I'm zooming in from Long Island City, New York. I'm originally in branding. I'm a creative director, designer. I'm also a coach, and I'm also the founder of a co-working together. So I'm all about community building and bringing people together, and friendship. I think for me, friendships have changed my entire life. It's the reason I've moved to New York all by myself. It's the reason I have made a lot of pivot points in my life. And I really do think that it is due because of my friends. And even starting something as important as this, it was really important for me to start this. There's been so many conversations I've had, especially now during the pandemic, of like the challenges of keeping friends, the challenges of making new friends as I'm getting older. Starting to create friendships in relationships as you're dating as well, with like my partner and their friends, and also like friendships within like as you're starting families and all of those things. So I've thought about these things kind of like Jamie and Amanda all the time, and I was like, I think it's time to start thinking about this. And we are really curious, like, what are people dealing with right now? What's everybody thinking about? I've gone through some like friendship breakups over this quarantine as well, and like what that looks like as well. So this is really just a space to like let whatever happen needs to happen in these beautiful conversations with people that we really like, love, and admire, and can't wait to hear about, and also like connect with if we haven't met you yet. So I just wanted to thank all of you guys for being here, and again for like prioritizing friendship. It definitely does mean a lot to me, and so I'm really excited to see and meet all of you.
Awesome. Thanks, Amela. Thanks, Jamie. And hi, everyone. My name is Amanda. I'm a third culture kid and kind of grew up a little bit of everywhere. So every time my family upgraded, I kind of had to, very quickly figure out how to make friends again. For me, it's never really been something that's like super hard. I think I just really like meeting new people. And before the pandemic, I used to try to high five at least like one person a day. So definitely like a little touch starved. But I'm home with family, definitely grateful, because I think over the course of the pandemic, I sat down the other day and I think I've made over like 1,000 new friends during the pandemic, and people I've just gotten to talk with, especially about friendship, about connection. And I think Amela and Jamie and I have been sending each other stuff back and forth, going down rabbit holes of like, oh my gosh, listen to this podcast, read this article. Here's like a meme, like, doesn't this just speak to you? And don't you feel so seen? And so it's been really cool to, kind of examine things on, are we good friends? Where are moments where we've been bad friends? Where have we had to break up with friends? Maybe the friendship has run its course. And so kind of being able to sort of navigate that through stories, or like, how things kind of grow stronger, not dependent on how long we've actually been friends. This has just been something that we really enjoy talking about. And I think that for all of us, I think we've done a really good job, right, of having good support systems during this pandemic, where we're all so far apart, where intimacy is so much harder to find in a way. And having had that built up already, how has that kind of, evolved for us during the course of 2020? What plans do we have for in 2021 to continue to meet people? And I think these are really important to have, because we very much understand that I think all three of us are, in more ways than one, like quite extroverted, but we know that some people, right, like this can all be really intimidating. Maybe you're not sure where to start. But showing up to something like this is a good, start all in all, because people who are here like are very friendly. They are friends of friends of friends, if it does make things any easier. So, if they're friends with us and you think that we're cool, granted, you're gonna meet someone here that you might really vibe with, and we love seeing those kind of magic sparks happen. So thank you for being here. As Mel and Jamie said, thanks for choosing to be here. But yeah, so diving into some stories, if you are just joining with us, I'll be making sure that the current question gets into the chat for all of our visual learners. So if you want to respond to that, feel free to do that there. We definitely would love to hear from you. Keep questions in mind later. We'll have like a mini Q&A thing where we get to chat with you guys as well. But Amela, I'm going to popcorn this over to you, just because we've been talking about this for most of this year. But, speaking from your experience, what has really changed for you during the pandemic when it comes to friendships? And, what's been challenging, or what have you learned? You did touch on earlier that there have been some friendship breakups. So if you want to get into that now, we can dive into it.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you. I think it's been such an interesting pandemic for me, where I've always been such like I'm like very extroverted. Like I love meeting new people. Like I live in New York City, and I like thrive on, I used to go out 5 to 6 to 7 days a week just to try different events and meet different people, because I think there's such a power in people's stories. And obviously now we're living at different times. And so at first it was very like, my schedule was so consumed with Zooms and catch ups, and like I was like living for it every single night. Like I was talking to somebody else, and at that time I'd also come into a new relationship, and so I was also meeting my boyfriend's name is Brennan, so I was meeting all of Brennan's friends at the same time at a rapid speed fire that I could have never imagined, and I was so ecstatic, which was like super great for like 2 to 3 weeks until like I got Zoom burnout and it was tough. So then it almost like this time also forced me to like prioritize like time, because being on screen a lot was really hard and challenging. And then I also started to realize, like, because it took a lot of effort to like keep touch and keep connected during this time, just as far as making an effort, scheduling, making the Zooms happen, I started to really notice like who was reaching out to me versus who were the people that I was reaching out to. There was definitely like an energy exchange that became to me more apparent, because I think I was so more in it and had to be consistent, where I started noticing like, whoa, there's like actually people on a regular basis that reached out to me, that check in, that I'm excited for. And then there was the other half where suddenly like it was kind of illuminated that like I never hear from this person anymore, or they haven't reached out to check in, or I'm kind of like, at points it was even like I'm kind of like was dreading having these conversations. And I was like, whoa, this is a really different feeling of like this obligation of like, with some people it's like I've been friends with them for X, so like I feel like I need to keep up this relationship, when in reality it became this moment of like, whoa, like I'm feeling some kind of way about this, and I kind of want to address it now. Like I just felt like at this time, where if I'm going to create this like brand around friendships, I think it's so important to like really listen to these feelings and also be okay with like me as a people pleaser with not being liked, right? There's such a thing for me where it's like, I love everybody. I love to give everyone love. But at the end of the day, it was also like, it just got exhausting. It got exhausting to keep up these relationships that I felt like at times were draining me. And then throughout this pandemic, it's been like, yeah, hard conversations, but also telling people like, I don't feel supported by you. I feel like you never check in and it hurts my feelings. I would like to have it change. But at times when the behavior didn't change on their end, it really became up to me to be like, I think it's okay that we're not friends. And I'm totally fine with that. And that was the first time in my life that I'd ever done this. And while it seemed very scary and it was like a very challenging conversation, I'm super grateful like to have cleared space, because if anything now, like it leaves more room for those nourishing conversations for me. But that's definitely like a huge lesson that I learned in the pandemic. And throughout this time too, as we're like bouncing back and forth too, if you guys can relate, feel free to like put up like a thumbs up in the chat as well. Like I'd kind of love to hear like where people are coming from, if this resonates with you, because I know that everybody has different experiences and, you know, is navigating their relationships during this time. So I'd also really love to hear like, oh, that makes sense, or friend breakups, oh no, or like however you guys feel. I'd love to like see that as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, Amela, I think the thing that we jammed on was making time for friendships, especially during this, it almost became burdensome when everything became a Zoom, or when catching up was like, how many times can we ask each other how we're doing when we know it's just very surface level? And how do we either nurture the friendships that we've had with friends that we have really good relationships with, or like how do we make new friends? Like for me, I've been in the mindset of almost making newer friends because of, I mean, personally, also for me, I just, came out as bi a year ago. And so I've been looking for, queer community. And right at 2020, my goal was like, I'm gonna make new friends. I'm gonna go out in town and make queer community. January happened, February, I was feeling myself, and then boom, March, pandemic, everything shut down. I was like, where do I find more people like this? But I'm just gonna say the queer community is very powerful on the internet. Like you can find almost anybody and everyone, and it's beautiful, and I loved it. But the thing that got me was like the loneliness, because I am also an extrovert. I am also a very, a person that has my love language is physical touch. I love hugs. So Zooming felt very not fulfilling. I mean, quality time was up there. Words of affirmation, like give it to me. I had to be more intentional with my friends of what I needed, because I would go up to my friend or like at work and be like, hey, I didn't get a hug for like 2 hours. Like, can I get a hug? Now it's like, hey, if I need something, I'm practicing asking for what I need, and asking for space, or asking for time and energy from someone that I might need it from. And I call us practitioners, and there's no such thing as a good friend, by the way, or a perfect friend. And I hate the binary of being good or bad friends, because we're all humans. We're all trying, and we're all, having relationships at the same time, and life happens. Like, I think there's empathy to that. But, I was having a shitty day, and I was like, Amanda, do you have time and energy to just be a vessel for me to just like vent to you? Because shit is festering in my brain and I need to get it out. Like it is just once you put it onto paper, like I am a very big journaler, and I do audio notes now too. Like if you just need to get it out of your head, just say it. It gives like space and freedom. But before that, I used to just like dump all my shit on like a text message to my friends, and like they might not be in the mindset for it, and their responses are like, oh, okay, like I hope you feel better. And it's like, yeah, that kind of made me feel better, but I guess I didn't give them what I actually needed. And it's about communication and relationships, and practicing asking and giving as well. Like asking your friends, what do you need? When they dump on you, you're like, okay, so what do you actually need from me in this moment? is such a wonderful thing that we take for granted. Like we do this shit when we date our partners, right? Romantically. We're like, oh, hey, what do they need? What's their love language? Blah, blah, blah. But we don't do that with our own friends. Like platonic relationships should be just as important as romantic ones. Like these are the people who are going to be in your lives, or in specific moments in your life. And for me, it's been eye-opening because, you know, I when I do date, sometimes that person, I mean, it is the new relationship energy that once you have it, you're just so excited, but then you don't want to necessarily lose yourself in that as well, or just like cut off the rest of your friendships, which has happened to me where I'm just like, nah, this person is it, I'm gonna go dilly dally over there, and then when we break up, I'll be like, yo, I'm back. And like, that's fucked up. Like you should be able to be with your friends, understand that, you know, they're going through something, or, you know, celebrate their friendship, celebrate the relationship, but how do you be with them, and how do you go through all this shit that, like, when life happens, you know? I am so interested in, like, you know, future topics, like people who are parents. Like I want to know about that. Like how do they deal with their friendships? How do you deal when your friend is depressed? Like how do you actually reach out to them in a way that is authentic, and, you know, you're not a therapist, but like how do you practice empathy that, you know, you can show up for them? So yeah, I mean, this is just an example of like literally everything we talk about. And I mean, I'll talk about it a bit, but I'm obsessed with relationship anarchy, which is the removal of the hierarchy of relationships. So removing the romantic partnership at the center, and it's you at the center. So if you think about you at the center and everything else at an equal level, romantic, platonic, defined however you want it, all these people in your life, like it should only be defined by the two people who are in it. Like it can be platonic and romantic. Like it can be whatever is not defined by society right now. And I think that's awesome. Like you can make the rules, break it. Like if you are like, yeah, we're like literally just friends who party, like though you're just friends who party. Like if this is like your intimate friend that like you talk deep life shit with, but you don't party together, like that's who they are. And I think that's so cool. Like it gives you the power again to define it on your own. So one thing that I did was like not categorize, but I am a strategist. So I do like categorize friendships in terms of like my own needs. Like it sounds selfish, and well, I said that to someone, they're like, no, like communicating your needs is not selfish. Like remove that word. It is being selfless, like understanding what you can give and what that person can give back to you. It's not a transaction, it's really just a giving and receiving and nurturing of what's actually valuable. So if you can do that with every person in your life, that is just groundbreaking than making assumptions based on an old concept that we learned in school. Like a friend is a person who has a common interest who you might play with in the playground. But like we grew up and like we never relearned the definition of friendship as an adult. And so going through that now, and I think the pandemic has like made it more apparent for almost everybody in one moment to be like, all right, what are my friendships? Am I quote unquote a good friend? What do I need? What can I give back? And there's a lot of connection in that, and healing in connection as well. But I just love it. I mean, it's the vibes of all that, and that's why me, Amanda, and Amela, we call it AAJ. This is like all we talk about. We're like, oh my God, like how do we have more of this feeling? And we're all new friends too. Like I'm new friends with them, and I still have to work on the friendship individually with them. Because to think about it from a group perspective, I'm like, AAJ, we're cool. It's like Mean Girls type status of like power in numbers. But it is, look at it one-on-one. And that has been for me like game changer. And I love making new friends. Like I will always like sit down and be like, yo, let's just chat. And if you don't want to be my friend, I'm like, cool. Like I wish you the best in every friendship that you have, and that like I will never be jealous of like you hanging out with another friend, because if that friend makes you happy, that makes me happy.
That's
Amanda.
great.
Thanks, Jamie. Preach. I was just like, yes to everything.
I'm just like drinking my tea. I was like, and you know
I know.
what?
I was like, I'm taking notes on this again for later.
And just a couple of shout outs on the chat, you guys. Thank you for the convo. Great. Thank you, Jamie, so much for all of that. Like, I'm also like hearing what you guys have. It's like that you guys also prioritize friends, like some friends you cry to, some friends you laugh with. One of you guys moved to Taiwan, now back, and you didn't keep in touch with your friends. And there was that awareness of like realizing like a wake up call of how much you put into friendships and how much you needed them. But also it sounds like of your own, like doing, like, right, having that awareness now of like, shoot, I should have kept in touch, right? And so someone else put in the chat, like, my challenge is that everyone I love is so stressed right now about the pandemic. And I'm learning that their stress response and my stress response might not be compatible. And so just so many like awarenesses that you guys are navigating in your friend conversations. And I really appreciate like hearing these challenges too. And like another person put, so true about touch. It's been really hard to not have touch all this time. It sucks that most of my friends don't live nearby. So just wanted to make that point too, of just reading some of your guys' responses. So, because it's so real of like what we're all feeling. And I do feel like we're, you know, all our challenges are different, but you know, we're all looking for that connection and those relationships as well. So I appreciate all of you guys sharing. Sorry, Amanda, go ahead.
Oh, it's all good. Thank you. I was going to do the same thing. I was like, people are dropping some awesome stuff there. Thank you guys so much for sharing. And obviously things really resonate. We're all at very different stages of whatever friendships, whether it's new or old or something changes, because each and every day we're all evolving. We're getting new input. We're learning new things. And so something that a friend maybe you've known since high school or since middle school knows about you may no longer be true. And you don't have to like keep being that thing, because you know, we're all growing. Again, we're all learning. And I think when we stop doing that or learning new things, like we're all going to be dead, right? And so for as much time as we can, like I like being really honest and genuine in my friendships. And I think like the most powerful thing for me this year was getting that much more vulnerable with people. I think most of the time I definitely try to be like, I have everything together. It's all fine. I'm doing 12 things at once. And like, I don't really need the help. But I think there's been something really powerful in reaching out to people this year and being like, hey, I need support on this. I'm like reaching really far on something. I don't know if I'm about to like burn out. Like, do you have space for me to like chat with you for a little bit? And so checking in with people to make sure that we're like in the same place has been like really helpful, because I don't have to feel like I'm just like dumping a ton of stuff on them and feeling like I'm being a burden. And it's no offense taken if someone's like, hey, I can't right now, like I'm in the middle of something, because I know there's other people that I can reach out to and rely on, or just be like, hey, you know, like in an hour or whatever. Because I do the same thing now. I think before I used to be like, I have to drop everything to make sure that I pick up for this person. And I've been asking people, you know, would you rather have me at 100% or at 60%? Because, you know, most people 9 times out of 10, they're going to pick the I want you at 100%, because I want to be able to give like 100% of my attention to what is going on with this conversation, that like I'm really genuinely going to be listening to like what they might need support on. And, you know, sometimes people just need you to listen and not like throw a bunch of things at them or give advice. And so even, you know, everything that I've kind of learned and deepened with relationships and friendships that I've had during the pandemic has very much, like Jamie said earlier, spilled over into my life with like family relationships, with potential romantic ones. I mean, for me, like the only love at first sight I really subscribe to is like, you know, I feel like Jamie, when you and I chatted the first time, I was like, I love this person. This person is so cool. We are like vibing on so many things. We have so many of the same experiences. And that's the cool thing, right? Is that some friendships can be super, super, like they feels like easy. Like you don't have to do anything. It kind of just flows, and maybe it feels really low maintenance. And for other ones, it's like, man, I feel like there's maybe some imbalance here. And so I think the other piece that I've picked up is just kind of initiating that with someone before it like builds up into something that's maybe just in my head that I'm overthinking, of like, hey, do you have time to like chat? I'm feeling like a little disconnected. I don't know what's going on with you. Like, are you doing okay? And, you know, not just, you know, having it be like, hey, you know, like, how are you doing? Because a lot of the time I feel like that's kind of our like polite like gut reaction response is like, I'm good, I'm fine. And maybe you don't want to get into it right then. And so something that I really like asking people, like I asked a bunch of you who were here earlier when we started, like I like asking people, hey, what was the last thing to make you smile or laugh today? And usually for me, that's a good sense check of where someone is, because maybe they're not really sure. Maybe they haven't smiled today, and that's cool. maybe the way that I like supporting that friend is sending them a bunch of like out of context memes or puppy pictures, or someone introduced me to like Chinese jumping vampire videos, which are like these horror films that are, it's really funny to watch. So I kind of just like keep a folder of those to send to people randomly without, any sort of expectation. And I also try to make sure that there's no expectation of like a response. Because while I do love hearing from everyone, I know like maybe there's a lot of pressure because people don't, do that sort of thing in terms of an active service or, quality time or whatever their love language is in the same way. So sometimes, there are some people who I know, like maybe they're posting on social media, or maybe I've heard from them in a couple of months and, they're not responding. But on my end, I just want to make sure that they know, like, hey, I'm here, you're loved, I still care about you. And I send people like love bombs. And so that's just something that I like doing outside of, a friendship anniversary or a holiday or someone's birthday, just because, hey, I was thinking of you and this is what's going on today, and whatever else I might be rambling on during that message. And it can be a video message, so there's no pressure for them to answer a phone call. It could be an audio message that they're free to keep. It could be a text message or whatever else. But it was just like, hey, a nice thing, I was thinking of you. And so it's been cool because then I also am like, hey, no expectation to respond. Like sometimes I'll check that on for people because they might feel like, oh my God, I have to respond to this thing. And like, I feel like I can't say anything meaningful right now. And that's totally okay. And so kind of letting that be and, making sure that I sort of do that in a lot of different areas, I think has been really helpful during this time. So, taking a moment to pause and kind of switch into a different question, Jamie, I'd love to toss this back to you for a sec. So when you're looking at your close friends, some of whom I know are probably on this call, who do you feel a lot of gratitude for, and what have you learned from them about being a good friend?
Yeah, I think the common thread through all of my good friends has been the ability to grow through all of it. I think um, one of my friends, Chris, actually gave me like a cool, I would say not feedback. I was like, because the question was like a random prompt and I couldn't answer it. It was like, what do you bring to a relationship? And I thought about any type of relationship. And I was like, fuck, I don't know, I'm funny. I'm a class clown, like I can make you laugh, haha. And he was like, Jamie, it's like way more than that. I was like, what do you mean? Like, why am I cool? And he's like, Jamie, you create a safe space for I'm literally reading it because I saved it for myself because I was like, damn, that's a good ass review. He said, Jamie, you create a safe space for a person to be themselves and grow and has a heart that lets someone feel loved. And I was like, fuck, thank you for that compliment. And I think another question that it's one of those icebreakers was like, what would your legacy be? If you like literally died tomorrow, what do you want to be remembered for? And I was like, to have loved as best as I could and to have been loved. And in every sense of like relationships. So I do that and I practice that and I want that in almost every relationship that I have, friendships mostly, familial included. So I think it's that safe space to be like, hey, like, I know we're human. We're humans that are trying to relate to one another. And do not, I think making assumptions and expectations and not practicing empathy of just like where that person is in their lives to not make it feel like a personal attack on you. I mean, there's a difference between a toxic relationship, gonna say that. That's very different than like, hey, we haven't been on the same page. So can we ask for space to either talk through it? If it's not now, when? Scheduling, I think, those conversations so you have the intention of what you want that conversation to be, because it's very different than like, hey, can we have a talk? Can we talk through this? And they might be doing laundry, they might be with the kids, they might be like running around, and they might not be in that mindset. So the intentionality of making space to feel safe, for me, I think that has been a huge learning curve because I have done my shadow work, I've been to therapy. And the thing is, like, I have a big fear of abandonment and fear of loss, of like, once you open up, that person is literally going to just run away. And I'm like, oh my God, like, that's scary. So like, on my end, I think this is my own moping and coping mechanism, is how do I create that safe space for someone else to feel like they can share with me? Because a nurtureship, which is just like a relationship that you nurture, is just a self-disclosure of like vulnerability and creating that space. And if you can do that with another person, whether it's a blip, because I think about it too, like, this person might not be in your life forever. I also have that expectation, because I think you have to continue to work on it throughout time. If you do not, and you let it, it's just like a plant, it will die. If you don't water it, it will die. Unless it's a succulent and that's the type of friendship you have, like, just water it just a little bit, it's fine. But if you are one of those people and you want this friendship to work and you think there is a disconnection somewhere, have that conversation. It's scarier. It's scary to ask that. It is. Like, I have practiced that language and I haven't found the words, but after the 6th time, I was like, I can do this. Because if you don't have modeled behavior for it, because we haven't seen it in our lives, then you become your own model for yourself. Like, I think if you don't have what you want, become the model that your future you wants, like, be the friend that you wish you had. Has been like, okay, shit, so I did that wrong, or I messed up, I'm sorry, I'm going to apologize, have accountability, and then show up in a different way. Or ask them, how can I show up for you next time? Very simple question. And I was like, I asked that to a friend and she's like, actually, next time, can you actually say, like, I would prefer it if blah, blah, blah. I was like, wow, I wouldn't have known that if I didn't ask. So it's a learning curve. It's like literally asking questions throughout when shit happens, and shit will happen, good and bad. Like, friendships will go through that. There's no such thing as a perfect friendship. So I think because we've also been ingrained in media about like, hey, we're best friends forever. It's like, all right, well, what made them best friends? Like, can I actually see what they've done to become best friends? Or we just like have a common interest and like we watch the TV show that we liked when we were younger. So yeah, safe space. I mean, what about you, Amela? Like, what, I want to ask though, like, what has, what has your best friendships taught you about what you want other people to know, or like, what do you wish you could work on more in pandemic friendships? Or what has, what was your aha this year when it came to your relationships?
That is a good question.
Questions.
Thank you for that, Jamie. I appreciate that. And also your share too about, I resonate so much with what you said. So many things are on my mind, but I think what some of my best friends have taught me, shout out to Robinson Lynn in this chat, who is like such a near and dear friend. And I feel like him and I talk about friendship all the time. We talk about like what we love about it, because what we hate about it, what the challenges have been. And even in tracking with Amanda sends love bombs, which she just sends you oodles and messages of loves, but anything that you send to her, she screenshots and saves. So I learned to do that this year. And so anytime someone sends me something, like a friend that makes me feel good, whether it's a voice note, a meme, a message, I screenshot everything and I put them in like a little box of like a notebook on my phone that I can scroll through if it's like a bad day, a rainy day, or if I just like enjoyed looking at it. And I have so much good stuff from Robinson in there of like just encouragement, but he's also the kind of person that I really appreciate that's like, whoa, did you know it's our friend anniversary today? And I was like, well, I did. I was just about to send you that same meme. And it's like that level of friendship where you kind of like jive on the same things and you realize that you appreciate and celebrate the same things and you hold them of the same value. Because I think like I honor like Robinson's friendship so much and hold it near and dear to my heart, because I realized that he puts friendship on the same level of importance that I do. And it's like, he'll cherish it. He'll bookmark like big events like this. Like, he's like, hey, I'm not going to miss it. Like, you know, it's like those things that we really value within each other that I think mean a lot to me. But I've also realized with him, it's like we've built that relationship because we have these conversations all the time. Like, hey, what do you find the most important? Like, how do you feel like loved as a friend? Like, how do you feel supported? Right. And it's like, I think Jamie and Amanda multiple times throughout the night, I think, have brought up things like mechanisms and like sort of like tools that they use of like how they speak to friends. Like, I've experienced it both with Amanda, like continuously of like, hey, do you have energy for this? Like, can I talk to you about this? And like, is it okay to say? Or like Jamie's mentioned tonight, like, hey, what do you need right now? Like, do you need a friend to listen, or do you want some feedback? Right. And it's like asking for permission, asking like what they need, communicating what you need as a friend. Like, that's like stuff that we're not taught. And like, why is like, that's the crazy part to me. And so I think as I learn with new friends, as I continue, like I have this yearning of like, I want to get to know you deeper because I care about you, but also like, what do you need as a friend? And so I appreciate like my really good friendships like have taught me that it's okay to like explore those things. It's okay to like uncover, discover, but also learn like how to like, if it's not okay, like how to bring that up, and also like how to have those conversations and discussions. And we're continuously learning. But like in my love bombs and in my notebook that I have constantly coming in, it's like people have told me like, hey, you're a really good friend. Like, you're a really good friend. And I started seeing that enough where I was like, whoa, this is like something that's really challenging. And while at times I feel like people like Robinson like make it easy because we have the same, I guess, love languages, like when it comes to friendship, right? I realize there's so many people that we are completely on the opposite ends of the spectrum, and how I show love as a friend is completely not how they read. And that's also what it's taught me, where it's like, while some friendships for me have been super easy, like some my best friends, others have not at all. And I've had to really work to foundationally build that, and that's also okay. So I think what I'm really excited about with this brand that we've started is like, what are those foundational things? Like, what are the questions we ask? How, like those small little things, even from like starting a conversation with a friend, or like, hey, I haven't heard from you in like forever, is everything okay? Or asking permission, like, hey, I have some really heavy stuff going on, like, do you have the energy? Like, that's such a different conversation than calling somebody like only when you're sad or only when you're happy, right? It's like distinguishing those things. Like, that's like some of my like my really good friends this year, and especially during this pandemic, have taught me some of those tools and resources where they've just come into awareness of like, oh yeah, I do that. And that's really helped me a lot. And like, I feel like you're so masterful at this, Amanda, too. Like, what are some of your like, I guess, what are some of those like tools that you feel like you use on a regular basis? Is there like mechanisms that you have within your friendships that you feel like it helps you flow with friends?
Yeah, I think some of it is like kind of just wing it. I know some of you who know me are like, Amanda, you have like 5 tab color coded spreadsheets. You're very organized. But like, I really like having like a ton of spontaneity in what I'm doing. Like, maybe I'll structure my day of like, this is when I'm doing X. Like, I'll dance for like an hour to start off the day. But within that, like, maybe I'll end up finding new music and not actually be dancing during part of it. But I like dedicate time, I think, and having it in some sort of routine in the back of my head, even if it's just pinging myself a reminder on my calendar of like, check in with this person, or like friendship anniversary coming up, whatever. So it's not just around like one particular date. Um, but I think the other thing too is like, I mean, thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, I have a like happy making folder on my phone that's full of like memes and screenshots of stuff friends have sent me that like made me super, super happy or feel really warm and fuzzy. Because like, definitely no joke, I know for all of us, there have been dark days that we've had like back in the past, but also particularly for this year, where like, maybe it feels like everything is completely upended. We don't know what's coming next. Like, I definitely have been in more than one panic spiral during the course of this pandemic. And so having that to kind of rely on, where like maybe someone's not always available, but I can go and literally look through it and remind myself that like maybe my brain is lying to me and I am not seeing myself too clearly. It's been so, so helpful to have that, and then be like, man, that made me feel good. Like, I want to send something back to them. And that all kind of started because I had a really good friend in high school who I was over at her house one day and she was like, we're going to make rainy day boxes. And I was like, what's a rainy day box? I still have it to this day. I've had it since sophomore year of high school. But what it is literally you put things in it that will make you happy when it's a rainy day, like literal or figurative, whatever it might be. So, there over the years, it's definitely evolved. There's like pictures of me and my siblings from childhood. There's letters people have sent me. One time, the same friend literally mailed me a section of bubble wrap because she knew that me popping it would make me super happy and take me out of my head. There's stickers, there's money and change I throw in there of like, okay, when it's a rainy day and I need something and I need like a self-care day or I want to take one of my friends on a friendship date, I have some money I saved up that's literally just there. So doing stuff that I try to have like one-on-one time with people too, even if it's just like a phone call like we've been doing now, or some of my friends I've reconnected with in the Bay Area, like maybe we'll go on like some sort of socially distanced hike. But we'll kind of come up with something to just like get ourselves out of it. And maybe it's like I used to when I lived in New York, I really like doing like coffee wander dates with people, especially when I was first getting to know them. So maybe we'd stop and get coffee or tea from somewhere and then just walk around and talk. And so I've kind of been doing that now and experimenting with like, hey, let's get off Zoom because we're on it all the time, maybe for work or with our friends or yet another happy hour. And let's just be on the phone and like wander around our neighborhoods and chat and like tell me what you're seeing. And it's been really, really fun to just hear where people are as we're kind of wandering and we're rambling. So I think that's been really helpful because not reserving that sort of time for just like friends that I've been friends with, but a ton of new connections has been so much fun. Because whether or not it's someone who's just like reached out to me on LinkedIn because maybe we ended up being at the same event or they slide into my DMs on Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, like I want to hear your story. Like, what are you excited about? What's getting you out of bed in the morning? Like, here's my Calendly, pick what time that works for you because I know how challenging time zones can be when I've been running all over the world. And like, let's make it happen. And it's been so cool because there have been so many different conversations that have gone to happen, so many ideas that I think have just like completely nourished because I've gone to brainstorm them with other people or kind of like give consulting advice on something maybe they're just starting out with. And it's been so powerful, I think, to just like be checking in with people and kind of giving back and be honest about like where I am rather than pretending that like everything is fine. So being like bold and has been and vulnerable has been like a way of kind of empowering others, which I'm super happy my friends have been receptive to that. And I think it's also been cool during this time. And Amela or Jamie, I want to throw this back to you, but we've also talked between the three of us about like, man, there have definitely been times I have been the bad friend. I definitely like learned something from this. Maybe I really disappointed someone. And so before I toss it back to you, like for me in particular, I don't know if one of my friends is on this call, but there was a project we were working on together and I wasn't being honest with her about how all of my stuff was all over the place. Like there was a lot of family stuff going on. There was a lot of work stuff going on. I wasn't handling the stress well and I wasn't letting anybody know. And so I ended up letting her down and wasn't delivering on something that I was supposed to send to her. And I kept being like, I'm working on it, I'll get it to you. But the deadline kept passing for like the entire week. And I just wasn't telling her like, I'm not mentally okay. And so we ended up talking about it because we sent each other voice notes to give some space and got on the phone. And like, it's the hardest thing to hear from my family, from someone I love, from a friend, when they're like, I'm just really disappointed. Like it is a complete gut punch. I like hate letting people down. But we had a really good conversation about it because I had to be like, look, like I'm sorry I wasn't honest with you. Like I am being a really shitty friend. And yes, this like, relationship between like work and our friendship is very blurred here. And like maybe we need to take a pause. And there have been times where a friend and I, maybe it's, I think looking back, probably stemmed from miscommunication where I thought I had told them something that was kind of like a red line for me that had to do with like family and friendship. And they brought it up and were like super like for it. And like that was like a no-go zone for me. Like I did not react well. I got very upset. I think that one of us ended up like leaving the restaurant we were at. And I was like panicking because I was like, this is someone who is such a good friend to me. I feel like maybe this is the end of our friendship. Like, I don't know what to do. And with that one in particular, I'm grateful that conversation happened because it wasn't something that I had told them. We took a break for I think maybe 3 to 4 months and then we got back in touch. And honestly, like our friendship is stronger than ever. that's not to say that like every time something like that happens, like you're able to pick it back up, but I very much think it is a choice. And sometimes time is just needed and some space. And then coming into it, knowing that that's the conversation you both want to have of maybe like clearing the air, or seeing how they're doing, or maybe it just picks back up. But you know, it's kind of up to you in a way on how you want to do it. But it's also owning that like, you know, sometimes you're going to be the shitty person that messes up. And so kind of owning your mistakes and being receptive of the feedback, because the people that know and love you are, you know, hopefully going to be more blunt with you and not like give it to you with a ton of like sugar-coated stuff that doesn't actually help you grow as a person or as a friend or deepen your relationship. So I think it's really important to touch upon that too. So Jamie, can I throw that back over to you? Is there times where you're like, I really just learned something from this or the situation that happened?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like if I realize I'm the bad friend, I just own it, and I actually say it to my friend so that they realize that like, hey, this is uh I take accountability. I say it's accountability and then an apology, because without an accountable part to it, that's not a true apology. You can't just say, hey, I'm sorry for making you feel this way. And it's like, that's shitty for if that happened to you. Like, I'm sorry I made you feel sad. That's just like really just focus on the intention and then not really the impact. But I do want to just, I think it's time for just like Q&A and open it up, just because there's a lot of questions happening in the chat. We are going to go into breakout rooms. This was just our portion to just talk through almost everything friendship in our mind and our brains, but we definitely want you guys to start talking to each other, because we are just three friends who like to shoot the shit. So Amela, if there's any questions that you guys have, please feel free to put it on the chat. And then we are going to go into activity mode, so you're not just seeing us talk this entire time.
Yeah, I'd love to hear sort of like in the Q&A, open to anyone and everyone, just as far as like things that you have questions about. How would you deal with this? Just some challenges you're having and feeling over, maybe it's this time in general, connecting with friends, new friends. I'd love to hear any of that, and we can kind of call it out and chat over it a little bit before we jump into the breakout rooms as well.
If anyone wants to go on unmute and share, or you can share in the chat.
Yeah, feel free to share in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand, and then we can unmute you as well to share. I have a couple of questions and sort of thoughts as well that you guys have put in the chat as well before that. One of them, I feel like some of my friendships are super unbalanced. Either I mean a lot to them or they mean a lot to me, but it feels awkward that we're not all on the same page. How can I bring it up with them? I think that's a really good question as far as, yeah, just having that balance. And I think I talked about it right at the beginning of like the friendship balance, right? To me, and the uncomfortability of that, and feeling like, you know, it gets to a certain point where it's like when you give, you start to like, it starts to become very draining. And so to me, it's like honesty is the best policy. And so to me, it's also like just having the space for it. And it's like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about something. And a lot of the times it's almost just like always sharing from my experience. It's like, hey, I feel like I check in with you a lot. We have a lot of these conversations. I'm here for you. I check in when I feel like you need the support. I don't feel like there's a lot of that like from you. Like I would feel supported if you could, you know, XYZ, or it's like, or even just giving the air or like the space for that to have that conversation. That's kind of how I go about it. And it's like, granted, their actions can be like, however their reactions will be. Sometimes they're very like loving and it's like, hey, I'm so sorry, I had no idea, which a lot of the time there's that space for that. And a lot of the times, like I've also had friends that just needed space and haven't taken it well and been like, well, I'm a really good friend and I don't know what you're talking about. And I've also left space for that to be okay. And then giving them their break and been like, hey, it sounds like we just take a pause. If you want to check in with me whenever you're ready, if you want to again, that's also okay. But it's always, to me, like I always relay things from my experience, ask them what they need and if they want to go into the conversation or if they need that break, and then I allow for that. But it's always been kind of sharing with how I feel, and honestly, just as honestly and openly as I can. What about you guys, Amanda or Jamie?
I guess I got My microphone's on now.
Hey, Kip. Yep.
Hey, hi, Kim.
Hi, Amela.
Good to see you. Love the hat.
Oh, thank you very much. Love your hat too.
Thank you.
You know, sometimes friendships. I'm probably the oldest fart in this room. I'm looking around at some of the faces in here. How many of you are in your 20s? Raise your hand. Okay, in your 30s, raise your hand. In your 40s. In your 50s. Okay, and some of us just don't know how old we are, I guess. Okay, I'm in my 60s, and one of the things I found out over time, friendship is about as fleeting as a good job. I found, like, when you're in a good job and everything's getting along really well, you've got friends at work. Work is fun. Work you spend most of your time at. And so it actually becomes the largest portion of your life. Get fired from that job, and all that goes away, and everything has to start all over again almost. And sometimes friendships are like that. Some people have said, well, like Amela, she used to live here in Boise. I got to tell you, backstory for Amela and I, she's actually a much better friend for my daughter. They're the same age. And when Amela first moved over here to the Boise area, I believe we were the ones that hosted you over for your very first American Christmas, wasn't it, Amela? Yeah?
Yep.
Yep. So our friendship goes back a ways, but she's a much closer friend to my daughter than she is to me. And sometimes friendships have that level as well. I'm a friend with Amela, but not nearly as good of a friend as my daughter is with Amela. My daughter went to New York to see Amela. I haven't been to New York. I stick around here in Boise, Idaho. And everybody goes, where? A lot of you, you're living in LA, you're living in New York. A lot of new people. Get a new job, you're going to have new friends. And when they change, when I say they're fleeting and they change, over time you learn how not to let that become the driving factor. I found over my lifetime that friendships are more like the icing on the cake rather than it is the cake itself. The cake is the relationships. The friendships, they're like the icing, and it can get licked off. Very tasty. It can be fun, and it can be gone. And a lot of times we find out that we really draw our full strength from inside ourselves. It's not from our friends. Our friends are there to support us. Our friends are there for somebody to talk to and have a good time with, hit the town, have a great time. But the true happiness all happens right in here. And if you're looking out there to make this feel good, that's the wrong place to be looking. Look for where in here. Am I good with myself?
Yeah.
If I just had to sit in a cave all by myself, would I be having a good time? Or do I need friends to be happy? And if you need friends to be happy, the search still turns inward then. Find that peace in yourself. And that's just something I found. I'm now 63, and I've had friends come and go. I've had friends die. You can't put it all on friends.
Yeah.
Friends are very important. Don't get me wrong. They're very, very important. But you got to be able to find that peace, that happiness, and all those things you're looking for in a good friend. You got to find them in yourself first.
Yeah.
And then once you found that in yourself, now you can give that away to a friend, and that friendship becomes real.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Kip. I appreciate that. And I think that's such a good point of like the internal conversation that we have with ourselves, like where are we drawing from to give that? And I also really appreciate your point of view of like all the different age differences, right? It's like the transitions that we have in friendship when it comes to, right, changing careers, the transitions as, you know, as we grow older and all those different things and types, things of that sort, as far as like when we have to relate to that. So I really appreciate your perspective on that as well. And thank you for your share. And I'll give Sharia a little shout out after this as well for you showing up here. I would love to, just another note that I saw of another question in the chat as well. Like the notion, you guys have mentioned some of the challenges of like letting go of old friends as well is crucial towards growth, and also like reevaluating and like the sort of like hitting the refresh button I saw in the chat as well, sometimes of like reevaluating where you are and with your friendships as well. And it sounds like also with Kip, as he mentioned, like the internal sort of thing. But instead of like diving into it here, like via like this Q&A, I also want to kick it off to Amanda, because I think she has that like a really beautiful experience too for us to reflect on before we jump into like the breakout and do the Q&A.
So everyone, I know you're all really eager to talk to each other. We hope some of this has resonated or hit, or it's brought up things maybe you haven't thought about in a bit that maybe, you know, you're open to sharing with some new people. So we're going to be doing 2 sessions of breakout rooms. So they'll all be about like, you know, 12, 15 minutes. You guys don't have to worry and keep track of the time. I'll keep track of the time. So the first question that we want you to sort of noodle on and think about, maybe, you know, go into the room, say hi to someone. I tried my best to make sure that, as far as I know, no one who is friends with each other is in the same room. But if you do end up there, you know, it's meant to be deep in that friendship, especially if you haven't talked with them in the last 48 hours. So breakout room prop. Thank you, Jamie, for dropping it in. Who do you feel like have been really pivotal friends for you? Who do you feel like has kind of shifted the course of your life, for good or bad, lessons you've learned? So I'm going to open this up. You're going to, if you haven't been in breakout rooms on Zoom before, you'll either go right into it or you'll get a pop-up that says join X room number. So there'll be 3 of you in each room. Don't worry, we're going to randomize stuff again for the next session. And if you guys, I really don't think we have to worry about it with this group, but if you run out of things to talk about, you're kind of done and you want to join back in, I'll be here in the main room. So you can always hit leave room and you'll end up back here and we can continue to chat. I'll probably be playing music and dancing so we can vibe together. So I will see you guys in a little bit. I'm opening all the rooms now.
Fuck, I love my friends. Without them, I'd be dead. I know they're the only ones who love me till the end.
Awesome. Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope that you had some great conversation with people, whether or not you knew them and were reuniting, or it was someone completely brand new. Yeah, Gigi is a great one to know. Love the shout out, Amela. So we're going to do one more of these for about 12, 15 minutes again. I know some of you ended up in rooms of 2. I think a couple people dropped off, so that's totally okay. I'm just going to recreate this for a hot sec. But yeah, I love that everyone is getting to meet each other. It's like my favorite thing, seeing friends go all in. So let me give you guys a little bit more time. Everyone should have 3 or 4 people in the room this time. So you are going to get another prompt. I'm going to drop it in the chat for you. So this will be here for you. So the question is going to be, what has been challenging for you and your friends this year? Have there been things that have been hard to talk about or share with each other? So let me drop this in here so you guys all have it. Also make sure it's broadcasted.
Next time, is it also possible to catch up with people we do know too? Because so many people on the call that I love and haven't talked to in months and would love to just be plopped in a room with them maybe for next time.
We will absolutely also connect everyone that's interested in connecting after this, so stay tuned.
I don't know anyone here. I'm from Toronto. That's not nice.
You can also be in my room. You can be in my room too.
Yeah. Now, yeah, okay. I see how it goes.
And
great.
No, I'm just playing. I'm playing.
It's all good. Like Amela said, for everyone who opts in, we'll send out a form if you guys want to be connected and thrown into an email chain together so people can.
Yeah, I definitely would love to. Yeah.
Absolutely. We don't want to assume that people are like, I don't want people to have my email. Maybe you want to throw in your Instagram handle in the chat and that's where you prefer to chat with people. Totally free to do that at any point, but we'll make sure that, you know, you get all of that information tomorrow and you can opt in. Thank you guys all again for being here. I'm so excited to see you all. So I'll open up the rooms now. So the question will be there. I'll also broadcast it. But yeah, I will see you guys in just a bit and be vibing to music. So see you all soon.
You are my best friend and we've got some shit to shoot. That's the way it is. That's the way it goes.
Amazing. Welcome back, everybody. Sounds like there were some good golden nuggets dropping in some of the rooms. Jamie, you put in, fuck anyone who doesn't celebrate your joy as the last line before the breakout ended. Love, love, love that. Thank you guys so much for just diving in with some new people and old friends and just getting into it. Before we like group back up and kind of share. Jamie, I'd love for you to lead everyone through kind of like a check-in with ourselves, just a little bit of self-reflection, where we are in our relationships that have been so top of mind for us. So I'm going to pass this back over to you.
Yeah, so I think this is where we have our writing utensils. If you have a piece of paper, a pen, if you have your notes app, email app, whatever, this is where we take a moment and have some self-reflection. We have been talking, you've been talking to other people. So we do have 3 questions, and whatever comes up to mind for you, please feel to just free flow write. If it doesn't even have to answer these questions and something else resonated with you, feel free to just write that out. But I am going to share it in the chat right now. And we will be doing this for a little bit, and we'll play some music. So here it is. 1 is, how connected and supported on a scale of 1 to 10 do you feel right now with your friends? Who are your closest friends, and why do you feel so close to them? That is actually a good question to just, as an exercise, to figure out the key traits that, you know, that your closest friends have and that you value in them. And are there any friendships you feel are strained or challenging, and why? Again, it might be a specific person that might come to mind, or it might be certain traits across different friendships right now. But let's take some time to self-reflect and write your thoughts on these questions. And then we'll play some music, and that is it.
Like all the time, they're right beside me. I love my friends and my friends love me. Like all the time, they're right beside me.
All right, y'all. You guys all done writing and thinking and writing and thinking again. All right, does anybody have, I know we did a little bit of short writing. Does anyone want to share in the chat or unmute themselves so they can share with the larger group?
No pressure to share what you're writing or to even speak up. Honestly, like for all the stuff I'm part of, like presence itself is very much participation. And what was created here tonight, the conversations that were happening, right, wouldn't have happened without you here. It would have been a very different night without each of you individually. So thank you for being here and creating this space with us. I guess like switching it up, kind of to, you know, bring it back to center of where we all are. Was there anything that in particular that really resonated with you tonight, or something that you kind of realized, or, you know, a shout out you want to give somebody else here that, you know, you think that your share, or you're excited to connect with them further? We'd love to hear from you guys, kind of what's sort of sticking as we wrap up the night. Sarah.
Hi, Amanda. Speaking of friendship, I miss you. But also in my small group just now, I was talking about how one of my friends is really stressed, and her stress response is sort of stressing me out, and we're like enabling each other in this stress cycle. And Connor pointed out something really insightful, that when we have these responses, like when we're spiraling, no matter what way that is, usually what we're asking for is validation of feeling loved and feeling important. So that was definitely what I needed to hear, because I feel like when I'm kind of in this defensive mindset of like, you are not being what I need you to be right now, it can be easy to forget that we're really just there as friends to love each other. So I really love that mindset. Thank you, Connor.
Connor, your wisdom is always so appreciated. I love when it comes through in spoken word poems or in conversation. Like, you're an awesome friend and you think so deeply about things. So Sarah, thank you for relaying that. All right, anybody else? Something new you learned today, or a new way of thinking about something?
I want to give a shout out, if I may, to Gigi. She said something to me in the room that was like major. She was like talking about being very intentional about like filling her calendar, but like also making it full of like conversations and people. Like, I think this notion of like, I met Gigi in New York, and like it's so easy in a place like New York to have your calendar be full, right? And be full of work and full of things to do and get busy in the doing. But I really loved what she said about like having like intentional, even this week, of the week being full, but like full of good conversations and good people. And I was like, whoa, I'm gonna like put a pin in that and like make that more of a practice. Like, in a routine. So shout out to you, Gigi.
We got Stephanie.
Yeah, Steph, go for it.
Hey, ladies, how often do you do this? That good friendship stuff.
Oh, sorry. We'll answer questions after this, Kip. We're gonna have, I think Stephanie raised her hand, but then we'll do follow up after if that's
okay.
Well, I think Kip speaks for all of us by saying they want to do this again. But I just want to take a deep breath in and do some little exhale. Because like this was so neat. I didn't know I needed this. This was like friend therapy. I feel like you just like externalize like all the things that I've been like ruminating about the past, I don't even know, probably months, and created a platform for all of us to commiserate and meet new people. And it's just very special that we have this as a thing. So thank you for birthing this into the world. And even though we are meeting virtually, this is probably the most held I felt in like a virtual space. So just want to say thank you for that, and being great community organizers and leaders and bringing us together. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Steph. Received. I'm so happy to see you. I'm so happy to see all of you. But yeah, thank you so much for the kind words. Anybody else have something they want to share for the evening? Brandon?
Yeah, I want to shout out Stephanie. As she shouts out everyone else, I want to shout out her because our breakout room, I was like, they're like literally the one human on the planet that can solve all my problems was presented to me in a breakout room. What? Like, not really solve my problems, but like where I'm at in my journey. And like, I think what she's speaking to true of like, we're so caught in this like isolation trap that it can be very like, I've forgotten what it's like to be in a room full of people and be like, oh, this person knows something that I've been looking for this type of person for years. And like, here they are in front of me. Oh my God, another person in this other area of my life. Oh my God. And it's like so exciting to see all these people and to see faces I haven't seen in years on this specific call. I'm like, we're all here together. And it's like, whoa, this is what it's like to be in community. Wow. So I guess I'm thanking everyone for being here, but also like really hyped that I got to connect with Stephanie because this is beautiful.
Steph, you're magical as always. I think all of us have like our own individual sparks of magic. So thank you again all for being here. Anything else people want to share for tonight? Robinson?
I just want to kind of echo what Brandon said. It's been in a time in which a lot of my friendship circle has shrunken. It's been really nice to, within a few hours, feel like, oh, here's new connections and new possibilities. And in some ways I've been proud. I'm like, oh, here are the people I currently have space to maintain relationship with. But in other ways, it's been like, oh, but this has been kind of inspiring to think about, well, maybe I've been thinking about it based on who's currently in my life and haven't taken the time to see what would be possible with meeting new people. So thank you to the three of you for creating this opportunity. And, you know, I felt like I was coming on here to be like a good friend, and then as my good friends created a space for me to receive. So thank you.
Thanks, Robinson. Oh, I love it. I'm smiling so big right now, like my face hurts. I feel like some of you probably can relate to that. But yeah, thank you guys all again for being here. I think, you know, to sum it up, I think there's a lot of like conversations we had, a lot of vulnerability of us just being like, hey, being honest with myself, I probably have to have a conversation with this person or these people, or maybe I should just check in with people with no expectation of a response, right? There's so much going on here besides just the pandemic, like whether it's emotional stuff with family or things about work, or, you know, wherever in the world we might be zooming in from, because I know some people are in very different time zones. Like, I don't know if Holly's still here, but I know she's in Bali. So it's the next day for her. But we're all in such different phases and places of life. And so I think kind of, you know, taking a step back from that and understanding that we are in different things, and, you know, sometimes we're all just very in our heads sometimes and not taking it like too personally, but making sure that we're not having like, you know, an emotional barrier up against people. I feel like working to kind of tear that down a little bit of like being perfect and having it together all the time has helped deepen things and, you know, really, you know, get a lot of new friends, at least for me during the pandemic, like particularly for being able to meet Jamie and just letting Amela know, hey, I really want to meet new people. I love talking about creativity. I love talking about art as advocacy. I love talking about all these different things. And she basically was like, here's a person who like checks all your boxes. So you never really know who a friend will connect you with if you're really just like looking to chat with someone. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Marielle just saw it. Thanks for Jamie for inviting Mariel. Yes, I love like everyone shouting out their friends in the chat. So thank you all for that. And in terms of some resources, I know someone had thrown in a question back before maybe the breakout session started about like where to maybe go meet new friends now, or like what resources are available. I think, you know, all of us probably have a wealth of things on this call where if it's open invite, whether you and your friends do a game night or there's a community you really love, like we mentioned earlier, we'll connect everybody on an email thread if they opt into it. For everyone who's on this call who wants to stay in touch via email, you guys can like put the latest things you're working on there, things you're experimenting with, stuff you're excited about, and take it from there. And this will be something that continues to build. So again, I think it's very special that you guys are here for this very first kickoff, this very first campfire chat we're having. Jamie and Mel and I have been noodling on some stuff for the new year, and we're really excited to share some of that in January. So we'll definitely be in touch for future things like this. We hope to do these with more regular frequency. I know that we all really enjoyed it, and it sounds like you guys did too. So it's only going to grow from here, and you guys are all going to get to be part of that. So thank you again for being here from the beginning. And then I also have like a resources spreadsheet that I like sharing with people of events or ideas to get together with friends and all of that stuff. So all of those good tidbits of stuff will be in the email tomorrow that I'll be thanking all of you, all of that good stuff. But yeah, Jamie, Amela, thank you both for saying yes to another crazy thing I had where I was like, I kind of just like want to do this thing. Can we just get people together and like meet our friends and introduce our friends to each other? So wouldn't have happened without you guys. So thanks for saying yes as well. You have anything you guys want to chime in with?
Amela is on mute, so I'm gonna go quickly. Thank you everyone for joining. I think it was such a wild concept of like, 12 a.m. thoughts, and then you know how they just go into the abyss. But I was like, this 12 a.m. thought, like, let's actually do something with it and just see what the fuck happens. And that's the cool part of it. Like, if you guys have any other like topics or themes that you guys want to talk about, I think even one of them from the breakout room was like, how do we actually celebrate our friends' joys without feeling guilty about it? Because fuck that, like, we should feel good about our friends being happy. I know we're in a pandemic, but like, come on, like, we have to celebrate each other's joys. Like, what are other topics like that? Send it to us, slide into our DMs if you don't follow us on Instagram yet, because we want to talk about that good friendshit. And I love a good pun, and I like our name a lot. That's it. Amela.
I'm unmuted now. Thank you, ladies. And I've gotten so many gems. I'm so excited to meet so many of you. I see a lot of new faces, a lot of really great friends that mean a lot to me too. So I just think, if anything, this was literally us just seeing what people want to talk about and to continue this conversation. So yes, Kip, we will have more of these conversations. So thank you for jumping in and sharing your perspective. But I think, if anything, if this can serve just as like proof of there's people out there that are looking for connection, that are looking for friendship, that have all these questions just like you guys. And this is also just like to show, like, when three friends get together, like, awesome stuff can happen. So like, really the power in friendship, and to keep that like always open, that there's, like Robinson said, there's new friends waiting to like be met, and new opportunities and new cool 12 a.m. ideas that are ready to be turned into these ideas out of like the courage of building friendships. So if anything, if you met a new friend tonight, or even have the like courage to reach out to a new one or connect with an old one after tonight, like, I consider that a win. So thank you guys so much for being here for the first one.
Jeremy, I see your hands up.
I want to echo the gratitude I have for holding this space. It's I do weekly Zoom calls that I facilitate, so it's nice to take a break for a second and have other people do it. And it's nice. It's nice to see other people who share my passion for supporting each other and loving themselves more, and then connecting with people on a powerful level. I really liked connecting with Amela and Christina and some others, and Olive. It's fantastic. I noticed that the type of people that come to these events are powerful, open-minded human beings, and I wanted to hold a space for everybody to just go ahead and give themselves a big hug if they're open. It's totally optional. Just give yourself a nice big hug. Take a breath into that hug you have for yourself, that self-love, that I fucking made it. I showed up. Maybe I had some hesitancy to show up, and I fucking showed up. And just to collect and celebrate those small wins, and they add up. They definitely add up. So thanks again. I'm very happy and grateful to share a space with all like-minded individuals such as yourself.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. That was so sweet. I'm so glad I have that on recording. I'm gonna put it literally in my happy making folder for like next time I'm feeling sad. But yeah, thank you guys all so much. Like we're very much around. Obviously, as we said, the conversation does not stop here tonight. You know, go ahead, feel free to follow us on Instagram or at our individual accounts, slide into our DMs, like we'll connect you all. If you guys, you know, need memes or puppy pictures, like hit me up. I know Jamie has a wealth of like podcasts and articles and therapy thoughts and ceiling poems, which I very much enjoy from her Instagram stories pretty much every day. And like Amela has a ton of really great stuff, and I just love chatting with her about literally life. There's like no limit. And so there's a ton of possibilities to like all the stuff we have next. But yeah, thank you again, finally, for being here. We hope you guys have a beautiful rest of the evening and that this has set up your week with a lot of good energy. And yeah, we will chat more with you all soon. Have a beautiful rest of the night. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, you got a friend in me.